You just got home from another miserable day at work and you think to yourself, how much longer can I continue putting up with this shit? This exact thought goes through the minds of millions of workers every single day, and it's the spark that lights many early retirement fires. However, while most people will tell you they want to retire early, few do. Well, if you are someone who does want to make their dream of retiring early a reality and are open to facilitating this goal through the use of real estate, then let me walk you through how you can do just that. Ask most people if they will drop their job to start a life of early retirement tomorrow, and 99% of them would do so without any hesitation. However, ask them how they plan to achieve this extremely desirable lifestyle, and all of a sudden, that dream of ditching the 9-to-5 world starts to fall apart. Well, one of the ways you can achieve this early retirement is through the use of real estate, and while you may think that doing so would require you to become a property mogul with numerous properties, the reality is that one good property can set you up for life. That is, depending on the income needs you have. I hate to admit it, but most people would be doing themselves a huge favour by simply learning to live off less, especially if they have any aspirations of retiring early. Simply put, how much money you need to live is the key determinant in how long you must wait to retire, and a bit of cost reduction can in fact make a huge difference in how much patience you ultimately must deploy. Now, I know that telling you must live off less if you want to streamline your path to early retirement may not appease you, but the good news is that typically when you're retired, you will naturally need less monthly cash flows anyways. Financial experts purport that most people only need about 80% of their standard living costs when they reach their retirement years, and this makes sense. Sure, you may be paying a bit more for insurance and entertainment costs since you won't be living the 9-to-5 lifestyle anymore, but you will also be avoiding certain expenses like commuting costs and any contributions you make towards your retirement through your employer. These two costs alone can easily be thousands of dollars a month you'll be saving once you retire. Now, a moment ago I mentioned that you don't need to have a massive real estate portfolio to facilitate your goal of retiring early, and I truly meant it when I said that one good property can be your ticket to financial freedom. Well, gently tap that like button below, and now let's dive into the numbers and I'll explain how this actually works. To start, while it is entirely possible to retire early with one single property, it can't just be any property. The type of property you're going to need to make your financial freedom goal a reality is one that has an optimized income to cost ratio such as duplex, so that's the type of property we are going to use for our example. Now, I know you're probably thinking, I can barely afford a single home, let alone a duplex. And trust me, buying a duplex is probably more attainable than you think. In the United States, the average cost of a duplex is just $400,000. I know this may still sound like a lot of money, but given that it can produce two separate incomes every month, this is a reasonable cost if you ask me. To get into this property and start using it to facilitate your early retirement at a 20% down payment, you're going to need $80,000. Which at 3% interest on a 30-year mortgage will have you making payments of roughly $1,350 a month. Now, as you probably know, owning a property requires you to do more than just make mortgage payments every month. When you own a home, you're also going to need to pay property taxes and insurance, which on this type of property would be around $350 and $100 respectively. Moreover, adding in repairs, home maintenance and a vacancy rate of around 6%, you would end up taking on another $700 to your monthly bill, making your annual cost to own and operate the home around $30,000. Fortunately, all of these costs don't have to come out of pocket because with a duplex, you will have two income sources covering these bills on a monthly basis. Based on the average two-bedroom apartment monthly cost of $2,000. This means that you would be pulling in $4,000 a month or $48,000 a year in rental income given that you would have two sets of tenants, one on each side of your duplex. When we net the income that our duplex would provide and the operating costs associated with it, we see that our annual cash flow from the property would be roughly $18,000 or $1,500 a month. This right here is a cash-on-cash return of 22.5%. Now, I know what you're thinking. How the hell am I supposed to live off $18,000 a year? And the good news is that no one is expecting you to. In fact, right now it costs the average household roughly $60,000 a year to live, which means that the $18,000 your duplex is making you simply would not be enough to keep you financially afloat. Of course, if you can live off this, then once you acquire your property and have it occupied, then technically yes, you could start your retirement lifestyle right then and there. But for most people, owning this property en route to early retirement is a longer term play. In fact, if you're someone with a long-term money mindset, then hit that subscribe button below because that's what we're all about on this channel. Once you have your duplex earning you rental income every month, the main decision you need to make is how you will spend the cash flow it provides. And if you ask me, there are 3 ways you could go about doing this. The first is of course to spend it on any leisurely items you desire. This is obviously not the ideal use of this money, but we all know a few people whose desire to spend often gets the best of them. So while I don't advise it, it's not uncommon to see this extra income being directed towards the consumption of material goods. Next, and one of the more fruitful ways to use this extra income, is to pay down your mortgage faster. Doing so offers a few benefits, with the first being an expedited path to more cash flow. As you could guess, the most costly payment you'll be paying when owning your property pertains to your mortgage. In our example, for instance, of the $2,500 you'd pay monthly to keep the house going, more than half of it was going towards paying down your loan. Well, when you no longer have your mortgage, you instantly increase your cash flow by the same amount. As such, let's go over just how impactful using your extra cash can be at unlocking ultimate financial freedom. Under the assumption that you funnel every last penny of that $1,500 in free cash towards repaying your mortgage, you could reduce the payment timeline on your property to just over 10 years and save yourself nearly $250,000 in interest. Now, the other benefit you'll receive by paying down your mortgage sooner is the reduction of interest rate risk. For those buying a home in recent times, the interest rate on our mortgage has never truly been overly consequential. Sure, you still want to get the best rate possible, but this won't act as a major hurdle for most serious home buyers. In fact, if you ask your parents, they would probably laugh at the interest rates of today as in past generations. Most people were buying homes when interest rates were well into the double digits. However, especially when you're assuming a large mortgage, the interest rate on your loan matters, and it matters a lot. For instance, on a 30-year, $300,000 mortgage, the difference between a 3% interest and a 5% interest rate is a difference of $120,000 in interest you'll be handing over to your bank. I don't know about you, but I'd rather keep that $100,000, which is exactly what you'll be doing by cutting down your interest rate risk and paying off your mortgage early. So based on these 2 huge benefits alone, repaying your mortgage seems like the best way to use this extra cash, right? Not so fast. The other option you should consider is supplementing your retirement investments. I don't want to get too deep down the pay off your mortgage versus invest rabbit hole, but one could argue that investing for retirement is a better use of your extra cash simply based on the average returns that investing can provide. For instance, if you're in a situation where you're earning the market's historical average return of 7% and your mortgage rate is less than that, then mathematically speaking, it would make more sense to invest, and quite frankly, this is the approach I would recommend people to take. Sure, it would be nice to be mortgage-free sooner, but at the end of the day, you have people paying down your mortgage for you, so it's really not something you need to attend to that urgently, whereas saving for retirement is. In fact, let's discuss the topic of retirement savings a little further. Assuming you make an average income of $60,000 a year and invest 10% per month or $600 over a 30-year time span, which equates to the length of your mortgage, you should be able to amass over $700,000. Now, obviously, the $28,000 a year that withdrawing at 4% from your $700,000 would provide you isn't enough to live on. However, this is where your one single investment property comes into play. You can actually use your property in 2 different ways to facilitate your early retirement. As I mentioned earlier, after 30 years, your mortgage would be fully paid, unlocking $1,350 a month and bringing your total cash flow from the property up to $2,850 or an extra $34,200 a year. This, when combined with your retirement savings, would allow you to finance a moderate lifestyle without having to work. However, perhaps in retirement you no longer want to be dealing with tenants, and that's perfectly reasonable. If this is the case, then you always have the option to sell your property and use its proceeds to live off of. For instance, if your property appreciates at 4% a year over the course of your 30-year mortgage, you could see yourself collecting proceeds from a disposition of $1.3 million. So this lump sum, when combined with your $700,000 in retirement savings, now brings you to a more reasonable annual retirement income of $80,000. Therefore, not only will you be collecting more income by using this approach, but you will also rid yourself of the headaches that come with managing tenants. However, right now you're probably wondering what other lucrative opportunities in real estate are out there, which is why in this next video I will share with you the 7 best real estate opportunities to take advantage of right now. So click on over and let's get started.